The Sterling family name carried weight in Charleston: old money, deep roots, and secrets buried so deep even the live oaks seemed to whisper about them. The roar shattered the evening calm of the Palmetto Club's main dining room, cutting through the clink of glasses and murmured conversations like shattering glass. Sloane Sterling, heir to the family empire and the most feared woman in Charleston's upper crust, shot up from her corner table. Her face contorted with barely restrained fury, her finger jabbed straight at the chest of a young gardener who had been trimming the hedges near the veranda. Kai froze mid-step, dirt still caked on his knees, a pair of pruning shears dangling from his calloused hand. The blood in his veins turned to ice. Instinctively, he dropped the shears and pressed his palm against his wrist, covering the silver watch that circled it beneath his work shirt. I didn't take anything." His voice stammered as he backed up a step. "I swear it." Sloane didn't listen. She kicked aside a chair blocking her path and surged forward like a gathering storm. Club members at nearby tables scrambled away, terrified by the rage radiating from the woman whose name alone made police commissioners look the other way. "Don't lie to me," Sloane growled, cornering Kai against a marble pillar. "That watch has been in the Sterling family for 4 generations. I've been searching for it since I was a girl. Where did you get it? Speak." The club manager, Harrison Wells, came running, his round face flushed with panic. "Miss Sterling, please calm down." He wedged himself between them, hands waving frantically. "1,000 apologies. This boy only started last month. Clearly an incompetent little thief." He turned to Kai, his voice dropping to cold steel. "You're fired. Get out before I call the police." Harrison grabbed Kai's arm, roughly dragging him toward the service entrance. Kai cried out in pain, but before he could resist, a powerful hand seized the manager's wrist and squeezed until his knuckles went white. It was Sloane. "Let him go." Her voice dropped low. "Dangerous. Touch him again, and I swear I'll burn this club to the ground. And you with it." Harrison released Kai immediately, trembling as he backed away, hands raised in surrender. But Miss Sterling, he has the watch. Shut up and disappear." Sloane didn't spare him another glance. She turned back to face Kai. They stood so close he could smell the expensive bourbon on her breath, could see the raw anguish burning in her pale blue eyes. "Give me the watch." She extended her hand, palm up. Kai shook his head, still clutching his wrist protectively. "No, this is mine. It's the only thing my mother left me. I've worn it since I was a baby." "Lies." Sloane slammed her fist into the pillar, the impact echoing through the hall. "Eleanor Sterling was wearing it the night she died. No one survived that crash. No one." Kai trembled, but something, perhaps the last shred of dignity belonging to someone with nothing left to lose, drove him forward. With shaking fingers, he unclasped the watch, removed it, and held it up before the most powerful woman in Charleston. But he didn't hand it over. "If you believe I stole it," his voice quivered but didn't break, "then tell me what's engraved on the back. If it belongs to your family, you must know." Sloane went rigid. Her breath caught in her throat. The inscription, her voice suddenly softened, heavy with infinite sorrow. It reads M&E forever. Margaret and Eleanor. Forever. Kai slowly turned the watch over. The club's chandelier light illuminated the worn letters etched into the faded silver, M&E forever. Sloane exhaled a strangled gasp. She took the watch from his hand, her fingers trembling as they traced each letter over and over, as if afraid it might all be an illusion. "This is impossible." She looked up, her gaze drilling into him. "How old are you?" 25. "When's your birthday?" "I don't know exactly," Kai replied, unconsciously rubbing his bare wrist. "I was found abandoned on September 12th. Sloane's world stopped. September 12th, the date of the ambush, the night she watched as a 14-year-old girl, Eleanor Sterling's car plunged off Ravenel Bridge. The night they buried her, and the unborn child everyone believed died with her. But if no one survived, why was this young black man standing before her, wearing the sacred watch that could only be passed through blood? She didn't say another word. She seized Kai by the wrist and dragged him straight through the main hall, leaving the diner's curious stares behind them. Kai tried to wrench his hand free, but her strength was like an iron vice, impossible to escape. They passed a long corridor and stopped in front of a heavy oak door. Sloane shoved it open, pushed him inside, and locked it tight. The luxurious private dining room with its leather sofas and crystal decanters suddenly became a cage. Sloane turned to the two bodyguards standing in the hallway and gave an order in a voice that allowed no argument. "No one comes in. No one goes out. You understand?" The two men nodded stiffly. The door slammed shut. Kai backed into a corner, his spine against the wall, his heart pounding like a war drum. He watched Sloane pull out her phone and dial. Her voice was ice cold as she spoke into it. "Patricia, I need you at the Palmetto Club immediately. Private room 3. Bring the old photo albums. The ones from before the crash." She ended the call without waiting for an answer. Kai stared at her. "Photo albums?" Sloane turned to look at him. Her pale blue eyes were like two bottomless pits. "You'll stay here until I get an answer. I don't need a DNA test. I'll know you by looking at you. By looking at her." "I'm not your prisoner," Kai said, his voice shaking but forcing itself to stand firm. "You don't have the right to keep me here." Sloane was silent for a long beat. Then she spoke, her voice dropping like the sigh of a woman exhausted beyond measure. "For all the years I've been waiting." Kai didn't understand what she meant, but he could feel the pain in that voice, a pain that had lasted too long, that had sunk deep into bone and marrow. Sloane stepped closer. "Tell me about your past. Everything you know." Kai swallowed. "I grew up at Holy Cross Orphanage in North Charleston. I don't know who my parents are. The sisters said I was left at the orphanage door on a stormy night." "What else?" Sloane pressed. Kai hesitated. "I was wrapped in an old denim jacket. Sister Mary Grace said it smelled like motor oil and cigarettes. She kept it for me, but it fell apart over the years. Only the watch remained intact." Sloane stopped short. A denim jacket. The smell of motor oil. She locked that detail inside her mind. It mattered. She didn't know yet how it mattered, but the instinct of a woman who had survived the underworld for half her life told her this was a piece she couldn't afford to ignore. 30 minutes later, the door opened. A middle-aged woman with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses stepped in, carrying a large leather-bound album under her arm. "Patricia Kane, Sloane's closest advisor." "I came as fast as I could," Patricia said, her voice gentle. She looked at Kai with curious eyes, then at Sloane. "What's this about?" Sloane took the album without answering. She set it on the low table between the leather sofas and opened it. The pages were old, the plastic sleeves yellowed with age, but the photographs inside were preserved, moments frozen in time. "Come here," Sloane said to Kai. He approached slowly, warily. Sloane began turning pages. Childhood photos. A young woman with dark hair and pale blue eyes, graduating high school. The same woman at a debutante ball. The same woman, older now, pregnant, glowing, standing beside an elderly Margaret Sterling. "Eleanor," Sloane whispered, pointing. "Your mother." Kai looked at the photograph. The woman smiled at the camera, one hand resting on her swollen belly. She looked happy. She looked alive. He had never seen her face before. Sloane turned more pages. Eleanor as a little girl. Eleanor as a teenager. Then Sloane stopped at a page near the back. A photograph of Eleanor in a hospital bed, holding a newborn. The baby was wrapped in a white blanket, barely visible. But around the baby's wrist, something glinted. Sloane looked up at Kai. "Show me your wrist." He extended his arm. The watch was back in place now, fastened securely. Sloane held the photograph beside it, comparing. Her hands trembled. "The clasp," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's broken. See? In the photo, the clasp is bent. It was bent the night she put it on you. It's still bent." Kai looked. She was right. The tiny clasp in the photograph had a distinctive curve, a flaw in the metal. His watch had the same curve. Sloane turned to another page. A close-up of Eleanor's face, her features clear and sharp. Then she looked at Kai. Really looked. The shape of his eyes. The line of his jaw. The way his eyebrows arched. You have her mouth, Sloane said quietly. And her chin. But your eyes, she paused, something flickering in her expression. Your eyes are someone else's. Kai didn't know what to say. He stood there, being examined like a piece of evidence, but also like something precious. Patricia stepped forward, her expression soft with wonder. It's him, she breathed. After all these years. It's really him. Sloane closed the album. She stood motionless for a long moment. Then she did something Kai never expected. She sat down heavily on the sofa, as if her legs could no longer hold her, and pressed her hands to her face. When she looked up, her eyes were wet. All these years, she said, her voice cracking. You stayed alive all this time. While we thought you were dead. While Margaret cried herself empty every night. While I turned the whole city upside down looking for a ghost. Kai spoke, trembling. Who am I? Really? Sloane stood and came to stand before him. This time there was no anger in her eyes, only something deeper, more ferocious, like a fire that had smoldered for 25 years and now erupted at last. You are Amora Sterling, she said slowly, each word measured as if afraid he wouldn't hear it. The only son of Eleanor Sterling. The lost heir of our family. Kai shook his head. No, that can't be. I'm just an orphan. I was adopted by strangers who couldn't keep me. I grew up in group homes. I trim hedges to survive. I'm not anyone's heir. Adopted? Sloane's eyes sharpened. What do you mean, adopted? Kai swallowed. The family who took me in from the orphanage, they kept me for 3 years. Then they had their own child and sent me back. The sisters said it happened sometimes. I was passed around foster homes after that. But the watch stayed with me. No one ever tried to take it. Sloane exchanged a glance with Patricia. Something unspoken passed between them. Doesn't matter, Sloane said firmly. Blood is blood. You were born a Sterling. You are a Sterling. And you're coming home. She turned to Patricia. Prepare the car. He's going home tonight. Kai stared at her. Just like that. From photographs. Sloane looked at him, her pale blue eyes fierce. I knew Eleanor better than anyone. I saw her every day of my childhood. I watched her die. I know her face in ways no photograph can capture. And I see her in you. She paused. The watch is proof. The dates are proof. Your face is proof. That's enough. Patricia nodded and stepped out to make the call. Sloane looked at Kai again. You're coming home, she repeated. To your grandmother. To your family. To everything that should have been yours from the beginning. A motorcade of 3 gleaming black Cadillac Escalades glided through the historic streets of Charleston at night. Kai sat in the back seat beside Sloane, staring through the window without truly seeing anything. His mind was still spinning with everything that had just happened. Amora Sterling. The name kept echoing in his head like a bell tolling from a distant world that had never belonged to him. 20 minutes later, the motorcade stopped before a gigantic wrought iron gate on the Battery. The gate opened slowly, and Kai had to hold his breath as the Sterling estate came into view. It wasn't a house, it was a plantation manor reborn. Towering white columns, wide windows blazing with light, an immense garden with a marble fountain at its heart. All his life, Kai had lived in cramped foster homes and rented rooms, and now he was stepping into this place. Sloane opened the car door for him. Kai stepped out, his legs slightly unsteady. He tried to look calm, but his heart was beating wildly. Sloane guided him through the main entrance, an oak door carved with intricate detail, into a grand hall with a soaring ceiling and a crystal chandelier glittering overhead. This is your home, Sloane said. It always has been. Kai hadn't even found his voice when a frail sound rose from the far end of the hall. Sloane. Is that you? Bring him to me. They walked down a long corridor and stopped before a large room. Sloane pushed the door open. Inside, an elderly white woman sat in a wheelchair beside the fireplace. Margaret Sterling, 72 years old, yet she looked as if she were 90. Her hair was pure white. Her eyes clouded by age and perhaps by far too many tears. Her face was gaunt, all sharp bone, like someone who had lived too long inside suffering. But when her gaze landed on the watch at Kai's wrist, everything changed. Margaret Sterling began to tremble. Her bony hands gripped the arms of the wheelchair. Tears welled in her dim eyes and streamed down her wrinkled cheeks. She tried to stand, but her legs had no strength left. Sloane quickly supported her, and Margaret moved toward Kai slowly, step by step, as if afraid he would vanish if she came too fast. She lifted a trembling hand and touched Kai's face. Her skin was cold and dry, yet that touch carried a tenderness Kai had never felt from anyone in his life. "My grandson," Margaret whispered, her voice choking. "My Amora. You have your mother's eyes. Eleanor's eyes." Kai stood there, not knowing what to do. All his life, he dreamed of having a family, of hearing someone call him grandson. Now it was happening, and he didn't know how to respond. "I don't know what to say," he stammered. "You don't need to say anything," Margaret said, the tears still falling. "You only need to be here. Since that night, I've waited for this day. I thought you were dead. I thought I'd never see you again." Then she embraced him. The arms were weak, yet they held him tight as if letting go would make him disappear. Her shoulders shook with sobs. "Eleanor," Margaret called her daughter's name through the broken sound of her crying. "Eleanor, our son has come back. Do you see? He's come home." And Kai, a boy who for his entire life had never been held by anyone, never been called someone's grandson, a boy who had learned not to cry since he was very small, suddenly felt something crack open in his chest. His tears spilled out, unstoppable. He cried for the mother whose face he had never known. He cried for the grandmother who had waited for him through a quarter of a century. A long time later, when they had both finally calmed, Margaret sat back down, still gripping Kai's hand as if afraid he might vanish. Her face grew solemn. "You need to know the truth," she said, her voice dropping. "Your mother's crash. It wasn't an accident." Kai looked at her, not understanding. "What do you mean?" Sloane stepped closer, standing beside Margaret. "It was a deliberate assassination," she said. "Eleanor's car was forced off the bridge. Someone wanted her dead." Margaret tightened her hold on Kai's hand. "The enemies of this family are still hidden somewhere. For 25 years I've searched, but I never found them. And now you've appeared with the watch around your wrist. And they'll know. They'll know you're alive." Kai felt the blood in his body turn cold. "So that means—" Margaret nodded. "You're in danger." Her voice was both pained and unyielding. "But this time I won't lose you. Even if I have to trade my life, I'll protect you." On his first night in the Sterling estate, Kai couldn't sleep. He stepped out onto the balcony overlooking Charleston Harbor. The night wind brushed through his hair as he gripped the railing. "You can't sleep." Kai turned. Sloane stood leaning against the door frame. "Neither can you," Kai replied. Sloane walked out and stood beside him. A long time passed before she spoke. "After that night, I was 14. I lived on the streets, stealing to survive. Then Margaret found me. She gave me a family." Kai stayed silent, listening. "That night, the night of the crash, I was in the car behind Eleanor. I saw everything. The cars came out of the darkness. They forced her off the road. I watched her plunge into the water." Kai felt his heart constrict. "I held Margaret back from jumping after her. That night, I knelt before her and swore I'd find who did it. I swore I'd find the child if they were still alive. I swore I'd protect this family with my life." Sloane turned to him. "That oath has been the only reason I've existed." "Have you found them?" Kai asked. "Not yet. But now that you're here, they'll show themselves. You're the perfect bait." The days that followed passed like a dream. Kai was treated like royalty but felt smothered. Sloane watched him constantly, tracking his every move. On the morning of the third day, a woman walked in as Kai sat alone in the sitting room. She looked about 60, with silver hair and a warm smile. "Welcome home, Amora. I'm Patricia Kane, Sloane's closest advisor. I've served this family since before you were born." She seemed sincere, her eyes kind. She spent the morning guiding him through the estate, telling him stories about the Sterling family. That afternoon, another visitor arrived. Preston Cole, a longtime business partner, had salt and pepper hair and an expensive black suit. He shook Kai's hand with a wide smile, but his eyes were cold as ice. "Are you sure he's the real thing?" Preston asked Sloane later, his voice low. Kai overheard from the corridor. "Some orphan showing up with a watch. That's not proof." "He's Margaret's grandson," Sloane replied icily. "I saw the photographs. That's enough." That evening, Kai saw Patricia and Preston speaking privately in a shadowed corner. They stood close, heads lowered, faces grave. When Patricia saw him, she smiled brightly. "Just business," she said. "Nothing to worry about." Kai nodded, but alarms were screaming inside him. Something wasn't right. In the days that followed, Kai noticed Sloane was always there, at breakfast, in the garden, in the library. She tracked him like a shadow. "I can't breathe," Kai told her finally, pushing open her office door. "Is this protection or imprisonment?" Sloane stood and walked toward him. "For 25 years I searched for you. I thought you were dead. Now you're here, and I won't let anyone touch you. Even me deciding my own life. Even that." They faced each other in silence. Kai walked out, his heart full of conflict. That night, he opened his door to find Sloane standing guard. "You do this every night." "I haven't slept peacefully since I was 14. Kai left his door cracked open, a promise he wouldn't disappear. 3 nights later, when Sloane was at a meeting, Kai slipped to the records archive in the basement. He found an old box labeled September 12th. Inside were police reports, photos of the submerged car. Then he found a list of people who knew Eleanor's schedule that night. One name had been erased. He turned the page. An unidentified witness report. A man in a denim jacket on an old motorcycle, seen carrying something from the scene. The denim jacket. The man who saved him. The door swung open. Patricia stood there, smile in place but eyes sharp. "Curiosity is good, Amora. But some secrets are buried for a reason." "Like who killed my mother?" Patricia's gaze darkened. "Have you found anything about the denim jacket?" Kai went rigid. He'd only told Sloane about that. "Sloane told me," Patricia said quickly. "We don't hide anything." But Kai knew Sloane wouldn't share that. Patricia was watching him. The next night, Kai climbed down the trellis from his window and escaped the estate. He took a ride-share to North Charleston's industrial district, asking everyone about an old mechanic in a denim jacket. A drunk woman grabbed his hand. "Old Walter. Lives under the Cosgrove Bridge. Babbles about the baby boy on the rainy night." Kai ran. Under the bridge, in the darkness and stench, he found a curled figure with white hair and a thick beard. But his eyes were still bright. "Are you Walter Morris? The one with the denim jacket?" The old man flinched. "Go away." Kai stepped closer, the weak light catching his watch. Old Walter saw it and began to shake, tears flowing. "My baby. You're alive. It was you. You saved me." Walter nodded, pulling Kai down beside him. "That night, I saw black SUVs force a car off the bridge. I went down. Eleanor was still breathing. She said, 'Save my child.' She gave birth right there. I delivered you. She put the watch on you and whispered, 'Find your grandmother. Live for your mother.' Then she died." Kai cried, holding the man who had saved him. "Why didn't you come forward?" "I had a record. I was scared. I left you at the orphanage and hid for 25 years. I'm sorry." Kai embraced him. "You saved me. You don't need to be sorry." Tires screeched outside. Sloane rushed in, saw them, understood. Another set of headlights flared. Patricia stepped out of a black SUV, cold smile on her lips. "Found you at last. All 3 of you." Sloane moved in front of Kai. "Patricia, what are you doing?" "What I should have done 25 years ago." Patricia drew a gun. "I sold Eleanor's schedule. I made sure she died. And I've been waiting ever since for the family to collapse so I could take control. But you kept it together," Sloane. And now the boy appears, ruining everything. You killed my mother, Kai breathed. Patricia aimed at him. This time, no mistakes. The gunshot ripped through the night. Sloane lunged, shoving Kai down, taking the bullet in her shoulder. Blood sprayed as she fired back, dropping 2 of Patricia's men. More SUVs arrived, Sloane's people. Gunfire erupted under the bridge. Kai dragged Walter behind a pillar as bullets flew. When the shooting stopped, Patricia lay wounded on the ground, her men dead or captured. Sloane stood over her, bleeding but standing. 25 years, Sloane said. You sat at our table, pretended to be family, and you killed Eleanor. Patricia laughed through bloody lips. Preston Cole paid me. He planned it all. He wanted the family. Still does. Sloane's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, face going pale. Margaret is dying. And Preston just called an emergency council meeting. They brought Patricia to the estate. In the council chamber, the family's highest members sat around the oak table. Preston Cole stood at the head. Margaret is dying. Sloane has vanished. The family needs stability. I propose we vote to remove her. The doors flew open. Sloane entered, shoulder bandaged, pale but fierce. Kai walked beside her. Guards pushed Patricia forward. Meet the lost heir, Sloane announced. Amora Sterling, Eleanor's son. Preston's face drained. This is absurd. A gardener with a stolen watch. Walter Morris stepped forward. I was there that night. I saw the SUVs force Eleanor off the bridge. I held her as she died. And I saw the symbol on those SUVs. He pointed at Preston. Your symbol. Patricia, seeing no escape, confessed. Preston paid me to give him Eleanor's schedule. He planned it all. He wanted the family. Preston snapped. You promised you'd never. He stopped, realizing what he'd said. The council voted swiftly. Preston and Patricia were expelled, to be judged under family law. Then every gaze turned to Kai. He stepped forward. I didn't grow up in this world. I don't know your rules. But I know justice. And I know family. He looked at Sloane. She protected this family for 25 years. She kept her oath. She'll continue to lead. I'll learn to be worthy of the Sterling name. The council rose, bowing to the lost heir who had come home. They rushed to Margaret's room. She lay in bed, frail and fading, but when Kai took her hand, she smiled. You did it, she whispered. You came home. Tears fell as she looked at them both. Eleanor, our son is here. He's wonderful. She squeezed Kai's hand, then Sloane's. Live for each other. Be happy. Then she was gone. At the funeral, Kai stood before 2 graves, Eleanor and Margaret, finally together. He placed white roses on his mother's stone. I'm home. I know the truth. I'll live worthy of your sacrifice. Sloane stood beside him. What do you want now? A foundation. For orphans, for children like me. So no one waits 25 years to find family. Sloane's eyes softened. The Eleanor Foundation. Walter Morris approached, cleaned up, dignity restored. I kept my promise to Eleanor. Now I'll rest. Kai hugged him. Thank you. For everything. As Walter walked away, only Kai and Sloane remained before the graves. What now? Kai asked. Sloane looked at him. Now we live. For them. And for ourselves. Will you keep standing guard outside my door? Sloane almost smiled. No. I'll stand beside you. If you'll allow it. Kai nodded. She placed her hand on his shoulder. He touched the watch at his wrist, his mother's last gift. Together, they looked out at Charleston, its lights rising into the night. The darkness had passed. The traitors were punished. The truth was finally known. And Kai was home.